everyone. Welcome to the Tech and Real Estate Podcast, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. I'm your host and data scientist, Ariel Herrera, and today we have a returning guest, Vikas Gupta, CEO of Azibo. We had Vikas on the channel several weeks ago to discuss how Azibo is transforming property management for landlords. It is an all-in-one platform that allows independent investors the ability to manage their rental property finances. Today, we have an exciting demo to show you all the features Azibo has to offer.
All right. Well, welcome to Azibo. Here is my dashboard for my demo account. I'll give you a quick overview of how this demo account is set up, give you a tour of the major features and functionality, and then do a walkthrough of how, if I was an existing customer or a new customer, how I'd add a property, add a unit, and then add a tenant to collect rent on Azibo, starting from the beginning of the process with the lease. But to sort of orient you today and to give you some context, I'm going to just show you my properties here. Imagine I'm a rental property owner. I have 5 properties, 1 short-term rental, 4 other properties, a mixture of 1 to 4 units each. And you can see that, I've organized these into portfolios. That's just a helpful way to keep things organized from a reporting perspective or from a settings perspective, which I'll go into more. But that's sort of one level of organization that can keep yourself organized within Azibo. So going back to my dashboard, you get a quick overview of everything that's important to you. So number one, most important thing, how am I doing on my rent collection? Have I gotten paid for this month? So you can see that I have collected $4,400 of my $5,300 in rent this month, and I have 1 overdue payment. No upcoming leases that are ending, no payments that are currently processing. This we need to do some work on, but we'll fill one of those units and get that number up a little bit. But let's see if I want to see what's going on. What's my overdue payment? Who hasn't paid me? Click on the more details. You can see now it's taking me to my rent dashboard, filtered down to rent. Since I clicked on the link for past due, it's filtered to my past due invoices only. And you can see that I have this one here. This rent here is past due. I can click on it. I can see the rent invoice. $900. There's a $50 late fee. That late fee is going to kick in tomorrow due to the grace period. I can waive it here if I want to. I can go into my options. I can cancel the invoice. I can send a payment reminder to the tenant. I can edit the rent amount if I need to, do everything in my invoice. But that's sort of my quick overview of my past due invoices. Now, if I want to see just overall all my rents, I'm going to get rid of this filter. I can see everything that's active. You can see my December rents paid. This is the one that was past due, paid, and then my January rent invoices for 2024. And then you can ignore this. I was doing some testing in this account earlier, hence test lease as the tenant. And I have an invoice for 2024, but just ignore that. But really easy snapshot of how am I doing on my current rents? How am I doing on my next months? And then obviously I can do all sorts of filtering to see, by property, by portfolio, date range, status, my rent invoices, security deposit invoices, and then any other payment requests that I've made. So quick and easy overview of all my rents. Now, these are all my recurring invoices. I do have the ability to send a one-time invoice. So let's say I had, a variable utility fee that I wanted to charge someone. I could easily just do 43. I pick what account I want it to go into, and then request. Put the tenant in, put the due date. I can tag it. We'll get to the bookkeeping earlier, but I can call it utilities, tag it to a property, and then that'll filter into my bookkeeping as well. So I can review my payment request, submit it, and then that tenant will get a payment request and they can pay that from their unit. So not just recurring invoices, and then you can see here that invoice showed up due today, $43. So quick and easy. You have all your recurring invoices that are auto-generating, and then I can create one-time invoices for anything I may need them for.
Yeah, very easy. I also like that there's multiple options, like bank accounts that as a landlord you could link for yourself. So that's great as well.
That is a great comment and a great segue into my next tab here, my accounts. So you can see all of my accounts. As you noted, I can set up multiple bank accounts. Azibo does offer bank accounts in partnership with our sponsor bank, Piermont. So I have set up Azibo bank accounts, one operating account for each of my main properties, a security deposit account, and then through Plaid, I can connect my external bank account. I can also connect credit cards to import those transactions into the accounting and bookkeeping tools. And then for the external bank account to either use it as a rent collecting account, a security deposit account, and or to import the transactions to do it. So I can link as many external bank accounts as I want to. I don't have to
Nice.
use the Azibo bank account, but there are some nice advantages in using the Azibo bank account. Specifically, if I go to outgoing payments with Azibo bank accounts, I can do bill pay, wire transfers from within Azibo. And if I do my bill pay, let's say I needed to pay, let's say I had a gardener for, 1012 Crowder, I could pick that's my operating account. So I want to make sure I pay it out of that operating account for that property. Hit continue. Let's do AAA lawn care. I've already added that recipient, but I can add a new one if I want to. This is going to send a check to their mailing address. Now I'm going to link it to this property, my category. Let's go with landscaping and gardening, and then put in a memo. Hit continue. Now, if I have their ACH details, I can do a free ACH transfer. But in this case, I'm going to do a paper check, send it, hit continue. I'm actually going to hit continue so that I don't send a staging paper check to someone. But if I were to hit continue on that, then you would see a pending payment such as this one, the check go out. And by having categorized it and assigned it to a property, it's already done for my bookkeeping and my reporting. So the
Nice.
value of using the Azibo bank account is having everything integrated cleanly in one place. But again, if you don't want to change your banking, you can connect as many third-party bank accounts as you would like. You can also do wire transfers. You can receive wires. You get a debit card, full featured bank account here. So
Yeah,
moving on.
that I have not seen before. The wire transfer availability all within the same platform. Amazing.
So moving on to the bookkeeping. So this is purpose-built bookkeeping for rental property owners. So you can see that this has imported in all of the transactions for all of those various accounts that I have. So it has my, see if I go to my accounts, it has each of my operating Azibo bank accounts, my security deposit account, my personal credit card, my personal checking, imports all of those transactions. And then I can very easily categorize them, assign them to a property, and then it goes into my financial reports. So for example, these are all on my personal checking and personal card. These are non-rental expenses, so I've classified them as non-rental, so they get excluded from my financial reports. Here, I had my mortgage, 3752. That I have actually split, so we support split transactions. I've split that into my principal amount and my interest amount so that it flows through properly on my P&L and my cash flow statement. So you can do split transactions. What else do I have here? Let's categorize one. Let's just say this was for, auto and travel. So I can quickly search for auto and travel. You can see that we have like out of the box, all of these categories. It's a chart of accounts for rental property owners out of the box. You don't need to do the customization that you would have to do in a QuickBooks or a generic accounting tool. We partnered with Brandon Hall, the realestateCPA.com to help us create all of these. So it really has everything that you need. And it's easily sort of searchable. So let's say this was auto and travel. I can stick it auto and travel and then assign it to my property. And there you go. Quick, easy. We also support rules-based categorization. So I've set up rules to auto-categorize all of my rent. And then I have default rules to assign things that go into specific accounts as let's look at this for example. Anything that is out of that account is designed for this property. So this rule will auto categorize anything from that account to this auto property. So with rules, we've heard feedback that with a handful of rules, people have automated up to 80 to 90% of their bookkeeping. And then you just have to go in there and quickly assign a few others, and then you're done. The other thing I want to point out is for my rent transactions, let's find a rent transaction here. When Azibo pays out rent to your bank account, we pay out one payout per tenant payment. So you'll get a line item to pay out for every payment. And then we tell the banks to put this as the statement descriptor. So Azibo, tenant first initial, last name, and then rent. So you can easily eyeball it. Now, that's what we tell the banks. Not all banks honor that. A lot of banks will just do whatever they want to do with the statement descriptions. But for a good chunk of the largest banks, you'll see some variation of this, which makes it very easy to tell who has paid you if you're just eyeballing your statement, and set up one of those rules to auto-categorize your transactions. So all of that now flows into my reports. I have my P&L, so I can run a P&L. It defaults to all, but let's say I wanted to go to, here's where my portfolio level reporting goes in, or if I wanted to go to a specific property, I can pick a property, and then you can see all those transactions that I've categorized to this specific property by the specific income and expense categories flow into here. And you can see, for example, for that mortgage payment, that was about $3,500. Only the mortgage interest is showing up on my P&L, because the principal wouldn't show up on my P&L. That'll show up on the cash flow report that I'll show you in a second. But that's the value of that, splitting the account. So you get everything here super easy just by categorizing those transactions.
Very nice.
Then again, you have your cash flow, balance sheet, Schedule E. So at the end of the year, you get a Schedule E tax form that gets you started. Export that to Excel, send that to your CPA, and you're going to save a bunch of time, and you're going to make your CPA really happy. Your GL, so you can see all the general ledger transactions, and your statement of CapEx. So all of this we generate for you, being driven off of the transactions here. Not only do we import the bank transactions, but you can add manually added transactions. So if there's a handful of transactions from some source that's not importing, you can do that. You can also add journal entries. If you are familiar with accounting, at the end of the year, you want to manually add your own depreciation in there. You can do that with a journal entry, although most of the time we suggest people leave that to their CPAs. So that's a quick overview of sort of like the core functionality. We do have applications and leases, but I'll sort of show you that through the process of adding a tenant. But this is the core sort of like rental property owner experience.
Love it. I think the UI is so easy to walk through, going through property rent, accounts, bookkeeping, and the manage rules portion here is critical. Just making it, like you said, between 80 to 90% of these transactions could just be automatically categorized based on a couple of rules. Like that's very beneficial.
Awesome. So let's say I wanted to add a new property. So I'm going to add a property into this portfolio. Let's say it's a single family residence. We will look up on Google search to make Google Maps integration to make it easy to find. Let's say that's my property. Single family residence, so it defaults to 1 unit. I can name my unit if I want to, but I'm just going to call that unit 1. Hit continue there. So let's just quickly go back to property. So now you can see that I did add that into my Nashville properties, which is probably not great, but for now I think that'll suffice. So if I click in there, you can see I have 1 vacant unit. So I can add a tenant, or if I click in here, I can see my tenant details, add tenant, go into applicants, and then invite someone to apply if I want to. Oh, wait, I did not. Let me just switch on. It's accepting applicants. So now we generate a link. You can send this to people. You can post this in your ads. That's a link that'll go to a quick and easy application. I've set it to be both the application and the credit and background check, where the applicant will pay $39.99. We integrate with TransUnion SmartMove, so it's a very highly reputable source for both the credit and background check. I can also do application only, which is free. Or if I want to, I can just send out a request. If I get paper applications or I'm using some other system to collect applications, but I want to do the screening through Azibo, I can do the background check only, the credit and background check, and send them a link. But they can just get this link, or I can invite them, put in their phone number, email, and send it out, and they'll get a link they can click on to get going. If I do have applicants, I'll see it here. You see some existing applications. If I click into this one, you can see sort of the application details. So this is part of the self-reported application. We collect, monthly income, credit score, self-stated, desired move-in date, rental preferences, their current employment, past employments, other income, all the standard stuff that you would see on an application. They can upload documents. We require proof of income, government ID. They can upload other documents if they want to, and then you can see the credit and background check information that's produced by TransUnion. So you get the full credit check
Wow.
here with all the trade lines. This is free to the rental owner. We charge $39.99 to the applicant. You get the eviction proceedings, and then you get the criminal background check. Criminal background check is only available where it is legally permissible. So there are some jurisdictions where you're not allowed to run a criminal background check. And in those jurisdictions, TransUnion will suppress the criminal background check portion of the report to help keep you compliant. If I go back to my property here, I'm going to go to add tenant. So if I want to create a lease with Azibo, I can do that. Or I can just skip lease setup if I create my lease somewhere else and just invite them to pay rent. But let's say I want to create my lease with Azibo. So now here you can see I can either pick a 50-state dynamic template or this NVPOA template. What this is here is Azibo has partnered with some various property owner associations across the country. Right now we have 3 live. We're working on more. But if we're partnered with that association, in this case, it's the NVPOA, which is the North Valley Property Owners Association in Northern California. We have imported all of their legal forms, including their leases that they make available to their members. And if you activate your membership in Azibo, you get access to that. And you can dynamically fill in their lease using their documents for those membership benefits you pay them for within Azibo seamlessly. So if you are a member of an association who we're not partnered with, please let us know and we'll reach out to them and get them teed up. If not, we have this 50-state dynamic template that we partner with Rocket Lawyer for, and we can get that. This we do charge $29.99. That does include the e-sign. So if I quickly go through, first I'm going to enter the payment terms for my rent collection so I have it easily referenceable when I fill in the lease. So let's just do, say the start date is next month, 12 months, automatically renew on a month-to-month basis, put in my rent amount. Let's say I wanted to add a recurring fee. Let's say I charge a $50 pet fee and $50 rent. So I can line item these on my invoice. Therefore, when my renter sees it, they see that these are line items. So they have a full breakdown of exactly what they're paying for. I can do automatic late fees. So let's say I do $50 if the rent is not sent by 5 days after the due date. So then Azibo, if they haven't sent the rent by 5 days after the due date, will automatically add a late fee to the invoice. So they can't pay their rent without paying the late fee. So you don't run into that issue where you're trying to charge a late fee and they pay the rent and then you're stuck trying to go after them yourself for the late fee. And I know that can get tricky, especially for, those where you might have a relationship with the renter. In this case, the system handles all of that pain for you, but you can enforce, keeping your renters on time. And we've seen that about 88 to 89% of renters on Azibo pay on time, which is compared to sort of like 82 to 83% national average. So we are helping renters stay on time and we are helping property owners get paid on time. If I want to, I can enable partial payments, and that way my renter can pay in installments during the month as long as they have paid it in full by the time it's due. That's by default off since most folks don't like to enable it, but we do enable that if you do, and then you can set a minimum payment amount. I can also say whether or not I need to collect a prorated rent. In this case, since my rent starts on the 1st, I'm not collecting a prorated rent, and then whether or not I need to collect the security deposit via Azibo. Last but not least, whether or not you require renter's insurance. If you do require renter's insurance, we will then prompt the renter on the renter side to upload proof of insurance into Azibo or purchase it through Azibo, as we are a fully licensed P&C insurance agency. Either way, then that information will be displayed to the property owner so you can be ensured they're in compliance with your renter's insurance agreement. So that's really it to set up my rent. I'm going to hit continue. Those are all the key terms. This switch, that is to invite the tenant to sign up for Azibo to pay rent. If I don't want to invite them to pay rent right away, I can always turn that off. Or if I just want to use, let's say I have a renter who, wants to pay in cash, doesn't want to pay digitally, but I'm using Azibo for my other renters, I can just put this switch off for that specific renter. They won't get an invite to pay via Azibo, but Azibo will add them as a contact, will generate all the invoices, and then I, as the property owner, can go in and manually mark those as paid. So I can still use this as a system of record for my entire rental business, even if I have 1 or 2 renters who may not want to pay via Azibo. Obviously, it's easier if you can get them all to pay via Azibo, but there are some folks who don't want to. And so we enable this to make it easy for the owner to at least have one place where they're tracking everything, even if they can't get all of their tenants to pay via Azibo. I hit continue. Let me just confirm all this information is correct. Then I create the lease. So here, all that information that I provided to collect rent on Azibo is here for my reference. Unfortunately, some of this I have to put back in. We're working on improving the autofill for this specific experience. If you're using one of our association leases, all of that information will be pre-filled. This experience, the pre-fill API is not quite up and running, but it will be soon, and we should have pre-fill working by Q1 of next year. So I can quickly go through, answer these questions. So basically, I'll answer a series of questions, and it'll populate the lease as I go. Hit continue, then I add my tenant name, and I have all of that available to me here, so I can just copy it and paste it over. And as I said, pre-fill on these fields should be working in Q1 of 2024. I return to unit. I have set this up, and I can send them an invite to pay rent, and then they'll get the invoices and they can start paying rent.